Listen to this in private. Find a room where you can be alone. Put on your headphones. Let the world outside fade away, because this is not for them. This is not a story for the commentators, the critics, or the casual observers. This is a testament, a blueprint, a secret whispered from one soul in the process of becoming to another. This is for you, in your quiet struggle. Let me tell you about a man. You might have known someone like him. He was a creator, a founder, a name once spoken with a spark of potential. He built something, and he put his entire being into it. He stood on stages, he made promises, and for a fleeting moment, the world promised him everything back. And then, it all turned to ash. The collapse wasn't quiet, it was a public execution. Headlines became his obituary, written in gleeful, mocking ink. Social media became a town square where he was digitally stoned, post by post, meme by meme. They laughed when his dream died. They laughed when he was exposed as just another man who flew too close to the sun. His name, once a password to exclusive rooms, became a punchline at dinner parties, a synonym for hubris, a cautionary tale told to frighten aspiring upstarts. He would walk through the city and feel the stares, the averted glances from former partners, the palpable pity from old friends, a pity that felt more like poison than comfort. The silence was the worst part. The phones, which once buzzed with endless opportunity, went dead. The emails, which once a torrent of praise and partnerships, became a barren desert. It was a silence that was not peaceful, but a screaming void where the world once was. He was a ghost haunting the ruins of his own life. The ridicule from the outside was a relentless storm, but the true torment was the echo it found within him. A voice in his own mind that whispered, "They are right. You are a fraud. You are nothing." He looked in the mirror and saw not a man but a failure, a pile of cold, rusted slag, a broken instrument, its music silenced forever. He was utterly, completely, and profoundly alone. This was his ground zero, the bottom of the abyss. One night, sitting in a room stripped of all prestige, a room that smelled only of dust and solitude, something shifted. There were no tears, there was no rage, there was only a terrifying, crystal-clear emptiness. And in that void, a single, cold, diamond-hard thought began to form. It was not a plea for a second chance, it was not a fantasy of revenge. It was a diagnosis. He finally understood. The fatal flaw wasn't in his business plan, or the market, or his team. The flaw was in him. It was his desperate need for applause. It was his addiction to external validation. It was the soft, spongy core of an ego that had never been tested by true fire. He had been building a house of glass on a foundation of sand, and he was shocked when the first storm shattered it. In the humming silence of 3 a.m., with the city lights painting indifferent stripes on the wall, he made a vow. It was a promise made to no God and no witness. It was a contract signed in the stark privacy of his own soul. He would disappear. He would not just retreat, he would cease to exist in the world that had discarded him. He would unplug from the noise, the opinions, the endless stream of judgment. He would go away. He would tear himself down to the base metal, to the raw, unrefined ore of his own potential, and he would begin the work of reforging, not to prove them wrong, but to prove himself right. This reconstruction would happen on his terms, in his time, and in absolute, unyielding solitude. The old him was dead, tonight was the funeral, and tomorrow, the real work would begin. And so, he vanished. His social media accounts went dark. His number changed. To the world that had been so fascinated by his downfall, he was simply gone. They shrugged. They assumed he had crawled away to lick his wounds, defeated. They assumed he was finished. They assumed wrong. They could not have imagined the world he was building for himself, a world contained within four walls. His small apartment was no longer a symbol of his defeat. It had become his forge, and every day was a lifetime of work. His awakening was the 4 a.m. alarm, a merciless shriek in the dark. That was the call to light the furnace. The furnace was his mind, and the fuel was knowledge. He devoured books, not just on business and code, but on Stoic philosophy, military strategy, biology, poetry. He was not learning to build another company. He was learning to build a new mind. He stoked the flames with information until they burned white hot, melting away the soft, sentimental illusions he once held. The slag of his old ego, his neediness, his arrogance, his fear began to bubble to the surface. Then came the hammer. The hammer was his discipline, and it was brutal. An unyielding schedule, meticulously planned and ruthlessly executed. While the world slept, he worked. The anvil was the cold, hard reality of the problems he chose to solve. Every single day he brought the hammer of his focus down upon the anvil of a complex challenge. The hammer of 1,000 lines of code, the hammer of 100 pages of dense text, the hammer of an hour of staring at a blank wall, forging a solution out of pure will. There was no applause, there was no encouragement. There was only the ringing of the hammer on the anvil, a rhythm only he could hear. With every strike, the impurities were beaten out of him. Procrastination, the desire for a shortcut, the craving for a kind word, the weakness of blaming others. It was all slag, the dross of a lesser self. And he burned it, beat it, and scraped it away day after day in the sacred violence of self-creation. And he would test his work. He would build small, private things and deliberately push them until they broke. This was the quenching. Plunging the glowing steel of his new skills into the ice-cold water of failure. It was painful. It hissed and screamed. But each time, the steel emerged stronger, more resilient. He was tempering his spirit, teaching it to bend where it once would have shattered. They did not see this. They did not see the 4 a.m. alarms. They did not see the stacks of books that grew like mountains. They did not see the coffee-stained pages of notes, the failed code, the discarded prototypes. They did not see the moments of agonizing doubt that were met not with despair, but with another swing of the hammer. They saw nothing. And in that sacred invisibility, he was being reborn in fire. Years passed. The world forgot his name. And then one day, something new appeared. It was not announced with a press release or a flashy conference. It simply arrived. A piece of software, a new framework, a solution to a problem that had plagued an industry for a decade. It was released quietly, almost anonymously, but it was undeniable. It was a work of profound genius. Not just clever, but wise. It was elegant, powerful, and ruthlessly efficient. It didn't need marketing. Its own excellence was a viral force. It worked so perfectly, so intuitively, that it felt less like a product and more like a law of nature that had just been discovered. Slowly, the whispers began. Who built this? Where did it come from? And finally, they traced it back to the source, back to him. The reaction was not laughter. It was a stunned, confused silence. Then came the wave of awe, quickly followed by the bitter tide of envy. The same people who had mocked his failure were now staggered by his mastery. The name they had used as a punchline was now spoken with a reverence that bordered on fear. And the emails started again, the calls. They found a way to reach him. But the questions were different now. How did you do it? What's the secret? Can I buy you lunch? I need to pick your brain. Who did you partner with? Who was your secret backer? They came to him not as colleagues, but as beggars, desperate for the shortcut, the cheat code, the magic formula that would explain his impossible resurrection. They looked at him and they saw a man who was utterly transformed. The nervous energy was gone, replaced by a deep, grounded stillness. The anger for approval in his eyes had been replaced by a calm, unshakable certainty. He would meet them, and he would listen. And when they finished their pleading, he would offer them no answer, no 7-step plan, no motivational speech, just a quiet smile and a look in his eyes that said, "You weren't there in the forge. The fire is not for you to understand. The blade does not explain the hammer, the heat, or the anvil. It does not speak of the tempering. It simply is. The work was the explanation. His presence was the answer. And now you. You who are listening to this in the quiet of your own pain, your own failure, your own moment of being counted out, laughed at, or left behind. His story is not just his. It is a mirror. It is a universal blueprint. Look at your setback, your heartbreak, your shame. Do not see it as an ending. See it for what it truly is. Raw material. You are holding the unrefined ore of the person you are destined to become. So I am now giving you what the world will never give. Permission to disappear. Permission to go silent, to turn off the noise, to reject the demand that you perform your journey for an audience of critics. They do not deserve a seat at your process. Their validation is a poison that weakens the steel. Find your forge. It may be a quiet room before dawn. It may be a garage.
It may be the university library or the public gym. Find the space where you can be alone with your own potential. Light the furnace of your mind. Feed it with everything you can. Then, pick up the hammer of discipline. It will feel heavy at first. Your muscles will burn. But you must swing it. Every single day. Strike against the anvil of truth, the hard, unyielding facts of your weaknesses and your goals. Burn away the person you were. Burn away the part of you that needs to be liked, that needs to be seen, that needs to be understood. Embrace the sacred agony of the hidden process. Suffer in private so you can triumph in public. No, not even that. Suffer in private so that you can achieve a triumph so profound it requires no public acknowledgement at all. Let them wonder what happened to you. Let them whisper. Let them forget you. And then one day when the work is done, and only you will know when that is, you will not need to announce your return. Your presence will be the announcement. The quality of your work, the power of your character, the steel in your eyes will speak a language louder than any words. They will come to you, just as they came to him, and they will beg you to know your secret. Let them beg. Your transformation is your answer. Your silence will be the story. Become the proof.